Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Melanie Cinch and I serve as the Director of Graduate Student and Postdoctoral Success here at UConn. I'm so excited that you're here to join us today for the first session of our academic job search series, Prepare with Purpose. We are recording this session and I will be sending out the slides to everyone after the session. So if you have a friend or colleague who couldn't make it today, please let them know that I will post the slides and the recording on our website probably next week. So just to let you know, this will be available, and we're covering so much ground today that I hope you'll refer back to these slides as you go through your search. So welcome. The upcoming sessions for this series include working on the statements that you might be required to submit for your job applications. They include research, teaching, and diversity statements. We will also cover how to design and deliver a teaching demo or a research job talk, a chalk talk. That's on June 22nd. And then we have 3 sessions in July, strategies for finding jobs, how to handle interviews from the first round to campus visits, and then finally evaluating and negotiating job offers. And so please feel free to join us for all of those, any of those, whichever you feel you need more help with. They all have different registration buttons on our website because not everyone needs practice in all of these areas. So feel free to choose the one that makes the most sense for you. The team teaching all of the sessions this summer will be myself, Kay Gruder, who's the Associate Director for Graduate Student and Postdoc Career Development at the Center for Career Readiness and Life Skills, and Rachel Prunier, who's the Director for Teaching and Learning in the Physical and Life Sciences in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. So Kay and Rachel will be teaching a few other sessions, and I'm actually teaching the interview session, which is one of my favorites because there are always good and bad interview examples. In terms of what we'll cover today, we'll talk about the common timeline for the academic job search, some factors for you to think through as you start to explore opportunities and read job ads, key job search sites, and common application components. Thank you, Michael. Michael just posted in the chat how to register for upcoming events. So if you want to take a minute to post in the chat your discipline, I just wanted to see where everyone is coming from. So if you can post that in the chat, that would be great. Communication, physics, neuroscience, nursing, philosophy, math, material science, MCB, environmental science, marine sciences. Welcome from Avery Point, earth sciences, public health sciences. So English, really nice diversity of disciplines today. So what we discuss will cover all of these disciplines, and I will be encouraging you to come and visit with us, with any of the 3 of us actually, with me or Kay or Rachel when you start to assemble your job application packet. So in terms of the timeline, it's really important now that you've all listed out your fields to understand what is common in your field. In terms of when you see job postings, you typically will see them from August to October. But a few of the job listings that I'm going to show you tonight, today, are open right now. So there's no reason you can't start looking now. Again, these jobs are typically for starting in the academic year of 2027. So usually the jobs are posted in late summer, early fall, And here are some places where you can look for the jobs. So on your Disciplinary Society's website, you might find some online job resources, and we'll talk about where those are, that focus on openings for faculty. You can look at specific research institutions or liberal arts colleges, community colleges, right on their employment section of the website, and or department web pages. You might find a listserv in your field, and you can also find faculty jobs listed on LinkedIn. In terms of your disciplinary society, here's an example. This is the American Historical Society. There's also the Modern Languages Association. There are so many different societies in the life sciences, the American Society for Microbiology. It just goes on and on. So be sure to connect with your disciplinary society website to start to look for jobs. Some of them have really nice job seeker portals and list jobs that you may not find other places. One online job resource that you might look at is Higher Ed Jobs. They list tens of thousands of jobs in higher ed. That they include faculty jobs, but if you are interested in higher education in general and looking at other jobs in addition to faculty jobs, there are a lot of career options within higher education. So I've worked with some PhDs and postdocs who might work in academic advising, or like Rachel at a Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. They might work in a writing center. They might work as a writer for the Office of Research. So it depends on your interests. It depends on what you're looking for, but Higher Ed Jobs has jobs not only for faculty, but also for other career options within higher ed. You can look at a specific institution's website. I actually pulled a job that's open right now at UConn that lists the Department of Psychological Sciences in CLAS at the University of Connecticut is looking for an assistant professor in residence. Those jobs are non-tenure track, but it is open right now and it closes next month. So if you're interested in working at UConn Stanford, that might be an option for you. You can also look at departmental websites. This department is the Department of Biochemistry in the School of Medicine at Case Western Reserve University. Case Western is actually in Cleveland, Ohio, and they have a few positions available right on their department website. So that's another place where you can look. You might belong to a listserv. I've worked with some graduate students and postdocs in the past who have found faculty jobs on their disciplinary listservs. And of course, you can look on LinkedIn. So you can conduct a search for faculty jobs in Washington, D.C., or faculty jobs in Portland, Oregon, or, you know, if you're looking at a specific city, you can certainly look that way. Yes, Jun Chang, we will be sharing the slides after today's session. So in terms of the timeline, you're welcome. After you find the job listings, so late summer, early fall, you'll start to see job listings come up. You can start to apply with your job search packet. So in terms of your application materials, you'll send them out to hiring committees, usually in September, October timeframe. Could be earlier, could be a little bit later, so could be more like August through November. But what that means is you should be prepping all of your application materials now. It's only May 27th, so you have a couple months now before August to get everything ready. So we will talk about the different job application materials that you'll need to submit, but one of them is letters of recommendation. And there's a dossier service called Interfolio that you can look up on the web. Interfolio actually can create an account for you for free to manage all of your job search documents. But if you want to send your letters of recommendation through Interfolio, they have a service that includes up to 50 different deliveries of your job search packet, including your letters of recommendation, but that's about $60 a year. So that's just one service, but it's a well-known service that collects letters of recommendation. And feel free to jump in the chat if you have any questions. Michael, if you can keep an eye on the chat and just let me know, you can interrupt me anytime. So once you have submitted your materials, the job search, the interview timeline can vary for your job search. So usually the first round interviews are in the fall, the year before you would start the job, but they can run into January, the first round interviews. They are often video interviews, so be ready for that. They might happen at your annual conference. There are a lot of annual conferences in different fields that happen in the fall. So that might be another location for your first round interview. After that point, you might be invited to interview on campus. Those visits are typically in the spring. So they might happen in the late fall, but usually through January, February, March round time frame. For the on-campus interviews, the hiring committees usually select 3 or 4 finalists to come on campus to interview. And so they're typically all-day events, and they can be multiple-day events. And then finally, if you've gone through the job search process and you reach the offer stage, job offers are usually made in the spring, but can be made as early as December, depending on when you applied, when your interview was, when you came on campus, and then when they extended the offer. It could be as early as December, but typically it's more like March, April timeframe. And again, these are for jobs that start in the fall of 27. So in terms of your job search, I strongly encourage you to stay organized. So put into practice some organizational approaches that have worked for you already through your grad program, through your postdoc, in your personal life. So how do you keep organized? I wanted to know what your system is. So if you can post in the chat just how you keep information organized, that would be great. So do you use Google Calendar? Do you use Outlook? Do you use spreadsheets? How do you keep your information organized? Google Calendar is my lifeline. Thanks, Yvonne. Spreadsheets and Asana. Spreadsheets, yep. Yeah, spreadsheets can be a really nice way for you to really record all of the jobs that you're applying for, and you might have columns for each part of the job search, right? So you might include the application deadline, what materials are required for that application, when you asked your recommender for a letter. You can really definitely use that to track your job search. So Google Calendar for interviews, deadlines, reminders. Exactly. So whatever has worked for you, stick to it, but stay organized, because, you know, with some of the grad students I've worked with and postdocs, they've applied to, you know, multiple tens of jobs, up to I've worked with people who have applied for over 100 in one season. So that's not typical. Some of the people that I've talked to even on this call will only apply for a couple that are a good fit for them. So I would also talk to the people in your department, talk to your advisor. Is there a recommended approach for staying organized from your department? And then look for products like Interfolio. And Michael, maybe you can post that link in the chat just so people have it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. So factors to consider when you're thinking about a job, you want to take into account your personal needs and your professional needs. So is there a type of institution or department that you're looking for? Some people feel they will only look in a certain geographic area. I've also talked to some postdocs and grad students who will say there are a couple states they want to stay away from. So whatever drives your geographic interests, that's what I would focus on. In terms of your future plans, what are you thinking about in regards to, thank you, Michael, in regards to your family? Think about friends, think about people you might like to be close to, what kind of position you're looking at, and then what does the local community seem like? Those are some considerations you can take into account when you're thinking about the best alignment for you. So in terms of the institution and department, you can learn a lot, obviously, from the web. If there is an institution like, Penn State, say, Penn State has a lot of branch campuses like UConn. So if you're interested in State College, you can look at the size of the department that you're applying for, what kinds of facilities they have, how much funding a department has, or the school has. If you're looking at a small liberal arts college, like Bentley College in Massachusetts, you want to identify their endowment, so you want to know that the institution is healthy while you're looking at these job ads. What is the student population? Is it a diverse student population? Is it in a rural area? Is it in an urban area? What's the ranking of the institution? Are there opportunities for growth? And so on and so forth. To do some of this work, you can look at what are called the Carnegie classifications. This is a system of classifying all of the institutions in the US. So all of the college level institutions in the US, taken together, regardless of type of institution, size, research activity, how many institutions do you think there are total in the US? So just post your answer in the chat. And you can look this up on Carnegie classifications, but what's your guess? Thank you, Michael. $500 plus, 5,200, 1,500. And I'm talking about all schools and colleges. Yep, it's Susan is the closest. As I looked it up, it was 3,927. But Susan, you're very close. So it's not as many as 10,000, but it's close to 4,000. So lots of different kinds of institutions. There are historically Black colleges and universities. There are tribal colleges. There are, we've talked about community colleges, but the Carnegie classifications are helpful because they talk about research activity within an institution. They also talk about types of students that apply to the institution. They also include size. So if you wanted a mid-size, institution with some research activity, you can look up institutions that way. Let me ask you another question. How many R1s do you think there are? And by that, I mean the highest level of research activity. So according to the Carnegie classifications, you might have heard this term R1 in the past, but how many R1s do you think are in the US? Okay, 140, 125, 50, 125, 108. So much smaller percentage than the 4,000, right? You're very close. It's actually, I did a search on it today in Carnegie. It's actually 96. So, you know, a lot of the grad students and postdocs I work with will say, oh, I want to work in an R1. It's just important to recognize that of the 4,000 institutions in the US, only 96 are considered and classified as R1s. That's not to say that you can't do research at a small liberal arts college, for example. You certainly can, and that might be more interesting to you to look at a small school where you can really develop research projects for undergraduates. So it depends on what you're looking for. It depends on what you're interested in. Would you like to mentor graduate students? Then yeah, you probably want to look at R1s and R2s. There's a second tier of research activity in the Carnegie classifications. And then you can look at the websites of the department and think about any connections you have through your disciplinary society, through maybe meetings or conferences you've attended in the past. Try to find some connection with the jobs that you're applying for, because that will make a huge difference for you. In terms of learning more about where you're going, so if you wanted to apply for a school in, you know, maybe a small school in Kansas, you want to start to look up information about the geographic area. So there are several different ways you can do that. You can actually look up city-data.com. I don't know how many of you have ever used niche.com, but I have used it recently because my son just went through the college application process. He's 17 and he's a senior in high school, so he's about to go to college. And niche.com was very interesting to read about different small schools. It includes all schools, but my son was looking for small schools, and it includes information about the culture. Independent schools use it a lot. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, exactly. And it just might illustrate some different differences, regional differences, cultural differences for you. I read about bigger schools in the South, like the University of Mississippi, the University of Alabama, and you can, it's really interesting. So I would definitely check out Niche. Teleport.org, chambers of commerce in a town or a city, faith-based organizations, affinity groups. Again, it depends on what you want out of a community. So definitely check out where you're looking. Other things to think about in terms of your future plans. What are your future employment goals? So you might be interested in a faculty job now. Do you think you'd ever like to move into academic administration later on? Like, would you like to be a department head? Would you like to move into a dean role at some point? There, you know, again, you want to look for opportunities to do some service work, maybe serve on committees and be involved in the campus life and the university's life. You may have future plans for your family. You may have parents who are aging. You may have siblings you want to be close to geographically. You may be planning for a family of your own. So think through all of these considerations as you start to look through the job ads. Education, you want to look at this, the school districts in the regions that you're thinking about, because the schools will have also ratings, and you want to determine, you know, where it would be best for you to live if you are thinking of family needs. Lifestyle, a friend of mine lives in, I think it's called Tacoma Park, Maryland. She is a scientist. She works at the NIH, and she really wanted a particular type of town. So thinking about thinking about access to a city, access to public transportation, and then what your financial goals are, that will also determine, where you apply. A lot of schools, in fact, public institutions in the US have salary data available. So you can look at recent hires for assistant professor level jobs. Expectations, you want to definitely think about and read more about the Carnegie classifications to maybe start to think through what the expectations are on you for level of research, level of engagement in terms of service to the institution, to the broader community, to a professional association or a disciplinary society. Will you be expected to publish? Will you be expected to bring in your own grant funding? Will you be mentoring students? So these are all questions I would start to investigate as you look at the job ads. You might think about, reviewing information about the department chair or the department head, colleagues. At this point, you can read through CVs of other people at the institutions where you're applying. You can read sometimes about the courses that you might be assigned. You'll learn more about resources available, lab space, access to equipment, and then how you're evaluated for promotion and tenure. So I was actually working on a paper this summer or actually this spring, that is about life as a faculty member. And I had to write about the promotion and tenure process. So I just looked up several different examples online from different institutions. And so you can read through the process pretty much anytime. It's fairly public. And then in the local community, what kind of infrastructure do you seek? Do you want access to cultural activities? Is that important to you? Do you have a car? Do you not have a car? Will you be reliant on public transportation? What other community resources do you want? I also visited with my son. We went to Minneapolis, and I was struck by how many public parks there were in Minneapolis. So really large city, really large institution there, the University of Minnesota, but it's surrounded by parks, and it's really beautiful. If you ever get a chance, I would definitely recommend Minneapolis. But what about neighbors and friends? Do you want to stay close by? Do you want to stay in the state of Connecticut? There is a website that I'll show you later on in our slide deck where you can look at specific states for jobs. And then, do you need access to specific medical services? You've got to think through that. You've got to think about that if you're applying in a very small town that where you may not have access to the care that you need. So, pardon me, for now, because it is fairly early in the season, write down what your best fit situation would be. So take a look through these slides after today and just make note of, I'd like to be in a city. I'd like to be near museums. I'd like to be near live music, whatever it is. Or I don't have a car, so the public transportation has to be great. Or I'd like to be near my aging parents. Think about that, and then try to think through your priority list. So must have, nice to have, doesn't have, and a major problem. Talk to people who know you to get a sense of, have them reflect back to you what they're hearing. And you can do the same with someone who doesn't know you as well. So peers, people in your department, people in your lab, other faculty, people on your committee, and make adjustments based on, you know, your conversations and conversations with family and friends. So these are just a couple job search sites. This is not exhaustive. I just wanted to show you a couple. The Chronicle is the Chronicle of Higher Education. It is a journal for our field. We read it, those of us who work in higher ed, we read it pretty regularly because it includes just news items about what's happening in the world of higher ed today in the US and abroad. So the Chronicle has a jobs listing site, and actually, Michael, feel free to post these if you want to. The Chronicle's list of jobs is pretty exhaustive, but again, I would say if you are interested in working in higher education, you know that you like this culture, take a look at some of the other jobs. So you can certainly look for faculty jobs, but look also at jobs where you would interact with students, where you might be able to conduct research, where you would interact with other faculty. There are faculty development jobs available, so a lot of different kinds of jobs. The university is like a small city in that there are so many different job families that exist at a university. So think broadly when you're looking at the Chronicle. The Chronicle has some specific filters that you can use, and it's really detailed. So Higher Ed Jobs is another site that I've used to find jobs for myself. I would definitely think through that. HERC stands for the Higher Education Recruitment Consortium. So HERC has jobs, has a job site as well. Inside Higher Ed has career advice columns for faculty jobs, for graduate students and postdocs currently. They have a lot of different advice columns, and they're really good. They're short pieces that are well written. So I would just take a look through their articles. You can read about different application materials, tips, and interview tips, and thinking through applying for other career options in addition to the faculty search. So you can be going through 2 job searches at the same time. You can go through the faculty search while you're exploring some other options. And finally, this is the one I was telling you about, Higher Ed 360. This job search website can be searched geographically. So if you pull up Connecticut, what it lists is actually every single college in the state. And from that list, each of those colleges has a link, and it's linked to their job listings page at that institution. So you can go to Esnuntuck Community College, you can go to Connecticut College or Wesleyan or Trinity or Eastern Connecticut State University, and you can just look and see what's open right now directly. So it's a really nice, easy site to use if you're looking geographically. So if you know that your family's in Michigan and you'd like to return there, Higher Ed 360 will list every single college in the state. So that's a nice site that you can use. Different types of positions are available too. So don't close yourself off. If you are interested in tenure track jobs, that's great. But think about different types of jobs like lecturer, like instructor. Visiting positions are often time delimited. So if you think you might like to try out a faculty position, look at visiting positions. Visiting appointments might be 2 or 3 years long. Adjuncts, you can actually adjunct at another college now. You might look at, Capital Community College or other places like Manchester Community College and maybe serve as an adjunct in your field to test out the waters, to teach. In some PhD programs, you may not have the opportunity to build a lot of teaching skills. So depends on what you're looking for, but you can definitely look at different types of roles. Instructor roles are typically full-time, can be with benefits, just not on the tenure track, but heavy teaching loads. So read the job ads carefully because oftentimes they'll include information about the type of role. For a tenure track job, you're hired at the assistant professor level, and then you go through typically 5 or 6 years to achieve tenure and be promoted to associate professor. After that point, you can go through an additional 5 to 7 years to be reviewed for promotion to full professor. So it's a long journey. It's a long journey to get to be full professor, but and tenure and promotion, you know, can be a stressful time, but it's, you know, very rewarding for some who go through it. So in terms of preparation now, what about your application materials? There will be some that you have to prepare, and there will be some that other people have to prepare. So the earlier you can get onto talking with people, preparing your application materials, the better. And now is a fine time to start. In terms of application materials for faculty jobs, you will be asked for a CV and a letter pretty much across the board from every institution. Depending on the institution, some may ask for a teaching statement, some may ask for a statement of your research. Some schools have eliminated their request for a diversity statement, some have not. Yes, Catherine, we're sharing our slides after the session. And then letters of recommendation, we'll talk about that because those can be really critical for you in terms of your writer and their ability to describe your capacity as a scholar. So those are just some materials that might be requested. Other materials that you might find in the job ads are a teaching portfolio, which includes, can include sample syllabi, some teaching evaluations. You may be asked for a sample syllabi for a specific class. I know there are some faith-based institutions that might ask for a statement of faith. I've actually worked very recently in my last job with a grad student who was applying for a faith-based institution. And we worked on that statement of faith together. Statement of contribution. So how will you contribute to the community? A research budget. That oftentimes will come later in the process during the offer negotiation stage, but can be asked for up front. A teaching video, a writing sample, and the list goes on. But for the most part, I'll go back to the last slide. These are the core elements that you'll see requested in most job ads. So these are really the pieces, the 5 or 6 that you need to get ready this summer. You also want to be prepared to present. So after you apply, like we saw that the current job that's available at UConn in psychological sciences, that deadline is June 25th. And if they're interested in talking with you, it might be for a job this fall. So if things move really quickly, you need to be ready with a job talk. So be thinking about that. Be prepared to teach a class. And sometimes you can choose the topic, which is really exciting and can be really rewarding. So be sure to have a class ready to teach. And practice talking about your dissertation, practice talking about your current research project, teaching your future research interests, anticipate and practice interview questions and learn about illegal and inappropriate questions. I would say definitely come to my session on July 13th, because we're going to talk about what's illegal, what's inappropriate, but also we're going to practice. So it'll be much more of a workshop style than today's lecture, because there's so much that you need to practice for interviews, and the more you do it, the better you get. So get comfortable with social events. I invite you to do that with any opportunity you have, maybe at a departmental seminar. Start to talk to people you don't know as well. So really trying to get to know other people is part of the job search process. And then get to know the places that you're applying. That is something that you can do, spend time on this summer. So recommendation letters, they are really important. And I wouldn't say they could make or break your application, I guess, but more importantly, you want to give your referee as much information as possible so that they can write a really strong letter for you. So when you're choosing your recommenders, I would be sure to choose someone who can talk about your research, who can talk about your teaching, depending on where you're applying and what's most important to that job, and who can be a strong writer for you. So when you are thinking about approaching people, that's the question I would ask. I would ask, are you able to write a strong letter for me? Not just, are you willing to serve, as a letter writer for me? So I'm looking at Kara's comment here. URI's Office of Professional Development and Graduate Writing and Presenting Lab can help URI students with job talks, interview prep, in addition to application materials. Thank you for sharing that, Kara. There are students and postdocs from URI, the University of Rhode Island, on the call today as well. At UConn, you can actually access several different offices, and we'll list those in a few slides. But you can talk to us before you approach your recommenders if you want to practice, but give people an opportunity to say no. So are you willing to write a strong letter for me? Are you able to write a strong letter for me? Discuss your plans with them. So what are the connections that you see between the job you're applying to and your background? So be specific when you're talking with them. Highlight something for them if you want it highlighted in the letter. The faculty write these letters all the time, and it's so helpful to have more context for them. I've been asked to write several letters of recommendation for people I have worked with and supervised in the past, and graduate students, postdocs. And the more specificity and context you can give your writer, the better the letter will be. Always, always provide a copy of your CV. As I work with my mentors and recommenders now, I still give them my cover letter and my CV every time I apply for a job, just so they know what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to share with the hiring committee. And then keep in touch with them. Let them know how your search is going. Update them when you can. Just drop a quick email to those who are supporting you. So these are UConn specific resources. I know that there are similar resources at the University of Rhode Island. So I would turn to your advisor for one, as you start to launch your search, have a conversation about, your interests and your work style and some of the considerations that you're taking into account that we talked about today in terms of where you're looking. But also turn to your mentor circle. So faculty advisors are not always mentors. They can be, but I would encourage you to look beyond your faculty advisor to multiple mentors and talk to them. Talk to them about your search. Talk to them about what you're looking for, where you're looking, what's most important to you in a job. Talk also to people, and this is true for the URI folks on the call, talk to people who are recently hired in your department. So junior faculty just went through this. So talk to those who just received a tenure track offer and accepted it, because they will be a great wealth of information for you. At the graduate school, there are several of us who can help you. Michael serves as our graduate assistant. I serve as the director of graduate student success and graduate student and postdoc success. So I actually offer individual counseling appointments for people going through the academic job search. Kim Curry is the director of graduate student and postdoc support for people who are struggling, for people who have concerns about anything that's going on in their academic life or personal life. You can set up an individual appointment with Kim Curry. So definitely get in touch with us if you need us. The Writing Center will help you to draft these documents. So if you have a draft of your research statement, of your teaching statement, if you have a draft or even an outline of a diversity statement, you can talk through it with someone at the Writing Center. The Writing Center is open to graduate students and postdocs, so definitely visit there. The Center for Career Readiness and Life Skills is where Kay works. And Kay also, like me, offers individual career coaching appointments for people going through the market. The Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, Rachel has coached many, many people in writing their teaching statements, in preparing their teaching demos, and practicing teaching. She teaches about teaching, so she's an excellent resource. And then your disciplinary societies. And thank you for that. Sorry, Yvonne. So disciplinary societies and professional associations also can serve as great resources, and you likely will know people in your field who can serve as points of contact or reviewers for your documents and other resources. So final advice, prepare. Planning to prepare is what we talked about today. And now you can get ready. You can get ready for the market. It's important to be prepared. It might be better to wait for you depending on where you are in your research, when you expect to defend, or when your postdoc appointment ends. If you feel like it would be better to wait, or you don't have as many papers as you were hoping, it could be, you might be a more attractive candidate next year. So think through that, talk to your advisor, talk to other mentors about that. And then stay confident, because you have so much to offer institutions of higher ed. So stay in touch. Kay and Rachel and I are happy to help you at any point during this whole process from now until you sign a job offer. So pretty much anytime, we're happy to help. All three of us can talk about any of the sessions we're doing. We just split up the sessions to spread out the work. So I will definitely hope to see you on July 13th when we talk about interviews, but stay in touch with any of us if you need help. And thank you so much for signing on today. And Natalie Lunstein is excellent. Okay, my pleasure, and thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today. I appreciate it.